Hello and welcome to the ASHB podcast. I'm Walt Zerbe, Director of Global Sales at Perma-Seal Audio, and your guest moderator or host for this particular episode of the ASHB podcast. And you might be asking yourself, gosh, why is an audio guy the host of this particular podcast? Well, I've been involved in the world of construction and smart home and integration for over 30 years. So I happen to focus on audio right now, but this is a very dear subject to me. And today's guest has a very interesting product that I think is 1,000% actually products, which is super, super important for every home built. And what's interesting is, well, audio is kind of optional, right? You can decide you want to have audio in your house. You can decide you want to have multi-room audio. But every single house needs what I believe is Roy's products. And I'm just going to get into that right now. So we have Roy Spencer with us. And Roy, just so I'm clear, what official title would you like me to use since you do so much stuff?
Yeah, it's kind of evolved over the years, Walt. I am the president of Perma-Seal Basement Systems and also the Basement Defender, two different companies. My role in each company is really founder and visionary. So I'm the idea guy. I have a lot of great people who work with me and hone my great ideas down to something that's practical.
Yeah.
And they get things done.
See, that's why I asked you to say that, because I would not have been able to say all that stuff. So it's just easier if you do. So if everyone gets the gist now, they're going to understand that we're talking about the number one insurance claim in the world, at least the United States, which is water damage, right, Roy? I mean, water damage is millions of dollars a year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And
I think it's, it might be a B in there someplace. Yeah, billions perhaps.
Yeah, huge. So let's get into you and your company and how you got started. I know you have a whole bunch of products and a whole bunch of offerings, which I'd also like to get into. But how the heck did you get into this particular world?
So the point of all this is that your basement, crawl space by nature, is a cool, damp place. Okay.
Gotcha.
And just that. So, they used to use cellars and they'd store root vegetables down there. They wanted a cool, damp place and things. But now we have basements. We have living space down there. We don't want to be cool and damp. A lot of our innovation comes from listening to the customer and say, yeah, this is great, but I'm still having this issue and things. And so sometimes it's when it rains really hard, my sewer backs up. A lot of our innovation has stemmed from that. Just listening to customers, trying to make their basement and crawl space dry no matter what, no matter how hard it rains. Yeah.
That's super cool. I do like that you can diagnose and prescribe a list of services to take care of someone's holistic issue, and they might not even have thought about some of those other ones.
Obviously, almost all codes require a drain tile system around the bottom of the foundation that runs either to gravity or more commonly to a sump pump. And so the codes require those things, but there are better systems that can be done to make it more of a permanent system and having instead of a single point of failure with a sump pump, have a backup pump and even something that tests your pumps every day. So these are things that are available, but typically builders don't have an appetite for it because, it's not sexy and may not help them sell the houses.
Sure.
But I can almost guarantee you if the homeowner were given the choice, and we do a lot of work with custom homes where we work with architects and stuff, and people, of course, well, I want a permanently dry basement. Yeah, how much more is that? It's not that much more than getting their 1-year warranty with the new construction.
All right, that's awesome. So let's get more into the other things that you offer. You touched on the sump pump thing. I'd like you to explain more about how you do sump pumps differently, because we had a little conversation before this podcast, and it was quite different. And I like your approach to it. So just talk about how, you have your typical sump pump, you plug it into an outlet, which is mine. And if my power's off, my sump pump is off. So let's get into that a little bit.
The sump pump is the heartbeat of the whole waterproofing system. So we could waterproof your walls silver blue in the face and put in, which we do. We have a elastomeric coating we put over so it will bridge cracks and the walls will never leak. But then the water goes down to the bottom of the hole and it builds up pressure around the footing. So you put in a drain tile system to collect that water and water pressure, and it has to drain someplace, typically inside to a sump pump. So that's basically how basements work and keep it waterproof. But the key, of course, is the sump pump. So in some pit is the lowest part of the structure. It's even lower than the bottom of the hole. So that's always, water's always going to the sump pit. And if the sump pump doesn't work, therefore, water's backing up around your foundation. So you're going to get water up through the floor. You can get it through your window well drains. Your wall cracks are starting to leak and things like that. So clearly, the sump pump is the heartbeat of the whole system. So if you have a crack or a hole in the wall, you get a little seepage, that's one thing. But if you have a sump pump fail, a pump can pump typically 2,000 or 3,000 gallons per hour. So in a matter of minutes, you can have, inches of water in your basement. So that's where the real travesties occur and catastrophes, when people have flooding like that. But if you think about it, well, do you know how many sump pumps fail?
Oh gosh, no, but I'm going to guess. I'm going to say, well, at least more than 50%. So I'm going to say 70%.
That's you're getting there. 100% of pumps fail.
Oh man.
And don't you want to know why? Because they're mechanical devices, and everything, all mechanical devices fail. Whether it's the motor, it's the switch, the impeller got stuck, the circuit breaker tripped, the discharge line got clogged or frozen. There's a list of almost 20 things that could go wrong that cause your sump pump to fail. And we already talked about what happens when it does fail. So it's silly, honestly, and not right to have a single point of failure. Even if your basement's it's not a $100,000 man cave and you just use it for storage things. You're storing things down there. You expect them to be dry. And so to have a single point of failure and have a single pump that is going to fail. It's going to fail. You just don't know when. And odds are you don't know, and you're going to find out the hard way. So, and of course, power failure is one of the most common reasons of sump pump failures. The power goes out and it can't work. It's an electrical device. So at least with a battery backup pump, it'll automatically switch, and it's a second pump that runs off a DC battery, and it will at least work while the power is off, and they're all limited by the life of the battery and things like that. But typically you get 12, 24 hours protection off a good backup pump system. So that eliminates a lot of flooded basements just by having that second backup system. I would get those calls and the 8-page letter with all the pictures of all their damages and this story about how they thought they were doing the right thing, dealing with my company, and they're so disappointed. And what am I going to do about it? And quite frankly, I'm not an insurance company. I can't cover the contents of their basement. I could, replace pumps or batteries if they're under warranty and things like that. But there wasn't a lot I could do, but it made me sick, honestly. These people had done everything they could to keep their basement dry, and we had done everything we could. In fact, we have a preventive maintenance program that we come out once a year and clean out the sump pit and water test the sump pumps and trying to prevent problems. But even that, a month after we're there, something could go wrong and the pump system could fail. So that was my angst, and I dealt with it all the time. My Achilles heel is these sump pumps, and the only way I knew of to make sure that it wouldn't fail is to test both the pump and the backup pump every day. So if you could test them every day, now your chance of having a failure during a storm is almost nil. So I was telling this, my story, my dilemma one night at a cocktail party, and a guy says, I can do that. And I said, you can do what? He said, I can test your pumps every day. I go, really? So he was a retired engineer, cool. And we got together, and that's just how the Basement Defender, our company, was born from that. And so that was 8 years ago. And of course, it took a couple of years to, have it manufactured and tested the heck out of the thing. But so today we've been selling them to the general public about 6 years. We've got about 8,000 units in the ground. We've not had a single basement flood due to sump pump failure if they have the basement defender. So the darn thing works. So I'm super proud of that, and that's my one invention, if you will, not just an innovation, but an invention, and it's a game changer because for the first time now, your sump pumps
That's
are working.
really cool. I mean, besides the daily testing, I'm sure there are many different degrees of how a pump is built. So I'm sure the impeller, I think you called it, and all the other stuff is probably unique or different, made for the longevity, made for the task.
Yeah, like I said, there's some really good pumps out there, and they're designed, the pump manufacturers build the best pump they can. But again, it's still mechanical, and they're always trying to come up with a better switch because the switch is the most common thing to fail and all that stuff. But it doesn't matter, if it fails, the homeowner has to clean up the same mess. So,
well, I had that exact problem. I had 2.5 feet of water in the basement. We had a cold water line that broke, and the pump failed. And I experienced that personally. And I think actually now you're making me think. I got a lot of equipment in my basement, and you're making me think. I have a worst case scenario. I get no water in my basement. My sump pump never works. So I just believe it's going to come on if it's ever needed. And that's probably really bad because it doesn't ever get exercised. I don't even put water in there. So I'm probably one of those, the thing's probably not going to work when I need it to work.
Most people who flood, I don't know the statistics, but maybe half of them never flooded before. And so they don't even think about the sump pump. And or like yours seldom if ever works. So, but the one time you do need it to work, and you could have a disaster. So, the basement defender is only for two types of customers. There are people who worry to death about their sump pumps. They flooded like yours, and they get a hard storm. Their pump's running all the time. So I've had customers that they literally have a lawn chair down there. When it rains hard, they go down and sit and just watch the thing cycle because they don't ever, like you, they never want to clean up after a flood like that again. So they got their buckets and they're ready to go if there's thing. And then those people are ideal for the basement defender because the basement defender will test your pump every day and send you alert if there's any problem. So it's watching it for you 24/7. But the other people it's ideal for are people who never think about their sump pump. They never flooded, and they just assume it works. And that's most of us. We assume it works because it worked last time, and why wouldn't it work? I just bought it 2 years ago. It's got a 5-year warranty or whatever. They just assume that they're safe, but they don't know. And they just assume. And then they go about their life, and they come home one day, and oh my God, the circuit breaker tripped, or the discharge line got clogged, or a coupling came loose. And they didn't know, and now they're faced with this disaster. So that's why I'm so excited about this, because we can actually keep people. There's people who've never flooded, and hopefully they'll never have to experience that. Okay, but most of the rest of us who aren't paying attention and stuff, but it's something that can happen to anybody with a sump pump. You should have that protection.
Yeah, our neighbor, literally right next door, his sump pump goes off regularly, like every hour, every day. It doesn't even need to be raining. And I'm right next door, and ours never goes off. Now that might change, but it's pretty wild. It literally, they're right next door. So I have maybe a dumb question. Can the sump pump test itself if there's no water in the pit? Yeah,
the way it actually tests it uses your home's Wi-Fi, and it sends electronic signal through to the pump equipment, through the basement defender, which will actually activate both your primary pump and your backup pump if you have one, and hopefully you do. But it'll just run them momentarily, not enough to burn the pump up or damage anything. It'll just run it momentarily at, I think it's 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. All our customers will just hear a little, as the pump's clicking on and off. And it measures the amperage that's going through. And it can tell if the pump is not working properly. And it's like, wow, that's drawing way too much amperage. Maybe there's something wrong with the discharge, or maybe the sump pump is getting old. So it will help you predict a failure. And it does the same thing for the backup pump, and it can actually measure the how well the battery's being charged and things like that. So it tells you all this, and it doesn't send you an alert. Hey, here's your link to your battery thing. It only sends you an alert if there's a problem. So people, are all busy. We all have these apps and things like that. I don't want to be bothered with a text every day. Everything's okay, Roy. Don't worry about the sump pump. No, it will only send you alert if there's a problem with the primary, the backup pump, the battery, or the charger. And also, since we can do it and we're in the basement, we have a temperature sensor and a humidity probe. So we can also measure 24/7 the temperature in the basement and the humidity level in the basement. And it all is tied to the same Basement Defender, which can send you alerts if there's a problem.
That is very cool. Well, and to be clear, your pump is available to anyone, right?
Yeah, the Basement Defender is. Now, the Basement Defender is not a pump. We sell it. It plugs into your pump system.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
So it's compatible with any mechanical that has a mechanical switch on it, as opposed to an electronic float switch, because we have to tie that mechanical switch up and then plug our switch on, so we can Basement Defender can give it instructions. So, but we also sell our own backup pump. It's compatible with most mechanical pumps, but with a backup pump, it's compatible with some. We can get harnesses, but we normally recommend you install the Basement Defender, obviously, with a good pump system.
Yeah.
On the internet, you can order the Basement Defender with a backup pump. So at basementdefender.com, yeah. And anybody who can install a sump pump can install the Basement Defender.
I think it's brilliant that you made it so it can retrofit to any pump. That's really cool.
Well, most people, I say, I just bought a brand new pump and I don't want to buy a new pump, and nor should you have to. So in most cases, if you have a good pump and stuff, the Basement Defender can work with it, type thing. So our goal, honestly, is just to get you a system that will work, and so you can have the peace of mind in your basement. So yeah, we started off just installing it because it has to be paired with the home's Wi-Fi, and so we thought we'd have to only do this through our own installers. But we recognize the need is much greater, and so we've really worked hard to simplify it and have videos, and the pump itself, the Basement Defender, will automatically pair itself with the home's Wi-Fi, so you don't even know your password when you install it. It'll automatically pair. So we've worked very hard to make this more available to the general public.
I'm totally going to check it out. I'm very, very intrigued and worried.
I guess I alluded to briefly about insurance companies, and we've been working hard to try and get in front of insurance companies, because it's like such a no-brainer to me. I mean, unfortunately, right now, a lot of people aren't insured against basement flooding due to sump pump failure. And if you do have that policy, that you have a rider that covers that, typically the damage rider is like $5,000 or something. That's how much they'll protect you for, But if you've ever cleaned up after a flood like you have, that doesn't begin to cover the cost.
Six figures with a lot of gear.
Yeah. So and not just the money, and again, you're scarred for life. You don't want to go through this. And you lose sometimes things that are irreplaceable. So it doesn't matter if you get the money, you can't get the high school yearbook or the baby pictures and things. You don't want to go through basement flooding. And quite frankly, insurance companies, it's such a common problem. It's a loser for them. So that's why they have such limited benefit and coverage like that. But if they had the Basement Defender, their customers did, the chance of their basement flooding, and the number one cause of basement flooding is sump pump failure. So we can eliminate that. First of all, their customers are going to be happy, because, I mean, we all, none of us like to file a claim and we get the money, and at best we're back even, but we can't erase what happened. The benefit to the insurance company is they don't have to pay the claims. They're getting benefits, they're getting their premiums in, but they're not paying any claims. So they got happier customers, they got lower costs, and things. So to me, it's a no-brainer. But at this point, we haven't found an insurance company who's, every time I talk to an insurance agent or broker, oh my God, this is awesome. We need this, but they don't make the decision. So we're still open and hoping to find some insurance companies that want to be innovative. And again, it's going to benefit their customers. It's going to differentiate them from the other insurance companies that don't offer this.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a lot lower expenses.
So you can't get a break on insurance right now with saying that one of these is installed. That seems just nuts to me, because I know you get a break when you have a security system. You can get a break when you have sprinklers. Yeah. I mean, that just seems so no-brainer to me as well. It does make sense.
Thank you. I'm the same way. I'm just like, I don't know what to do, and I know the confusion to the insurance companies. There's a lot of companies out there that have high water alarms and monitoring systems. So you could get one at your home. You go down to Home Depot and you buy a high water alarm and you put it in your sump pit. And when the water gets too high where your sump pump should have worked, it will sound an alarm. It may even send you an alert on your phone and say, hey, your pump is not working. You need to do something. Remember, I started off the conversation saying how pumps will pump thousands of gallons per hour.
Yeah.
So let's say you're at work and you're 20 minutes away and you get an alert. Oh, my pump's not working. I got to hurry, get home and replace it or something. By the time you get home, you already flooded. You already have the damages. So high water alarms do just that. They tell you there's a problem going on. The basement defender will tell you before the emergency occurs. And so typically the emergency won't even occur. It's a non-event because we've already replaced the pump or the battery, the charger or something by testing it every day. And so that's the big difference. So I think insurance companies know that alarms are a good thing, but they also know it doesn't really prevent the loss. So maybe that's why they can confuse, because we monitor the basement 24/7. So every time your backup pump runs, we'll send you an alert. So it shouldn't be running. And why is that? And we notice if your humidity is creeping up too high, you'll get an alert. Or your temperature is too low in your basement, your pipes might freeze, you'll get an alert. So we do monitor 24/7 that way. We test it once a day at 9 a.m. That's what's the unique patented feature about the Basement Defender. It will test every day. So I suspect maybe insurance companies are just leery about monitoring systems and think they're not really going to save the money, but the Basement Defender truly is different.
And will it let you know that it's running on backup, like the main failed, we're running on backup right now. So so you better get your main get somebody to check out your main because it wasn't working.
Yeah. And say, well, you might be home and the power failed and you're going to get an alert. Say, hey, your backup pump's running. I know, duh. And that's okay. But if if the power didn't fail and your backup pump's running, that means there's something wrong with your primary. So gives you a chance to react. Okay.
Well, Roy, this has been very enlightening and also unnerving because I feel vulnerable.
Oh, good. Honestly, to me, this is 2025. There's no reason. One of my installers coined it dumb pumps. There's no reason for people to have dumb pumps. What's a dumb pump? That's a pump that doesn't test itself. Okay, these are truly smart pumps, and because they will test themselves and analyze the data and stuff and predict failure and things like that. It talked about, what's expensive, what's not expensive. This is not expensive at all. It really isn't when you consider the cost of a single failure type thing. So I know I'm going to live to see the day where everybody has a smart sump pump system. But today, very few people like yourself have even heard about this.
Yep.
Okay. And that's my fault. I'm not doing enough advertising and getting the word out. So I appreciate your help today, Walt, and maybe that will move the needle a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, it was fascinating and really necessary. As I said when I opened, everyone that owns a structure has the potential for great damage. So and why not prevent then replace? That's just no fun. And I will tell you, I lived in a hotel for 2 months with 3 young kids and my wife. I'm trying to do my day job and she's trying to do her day job. And we're going to a hotel every day to live. And that is no fun. That gets old fast. Yeah, I got a lot of points, but it's totally no fun.
not with your wife.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, but it's interesting. We always ask people if you ever experienced a flood or know somebody who has, and they all, a lot of people have stories to tell. They've never forgotten it.
It's worst.
I've gone through it, and I've never forgotten it. You're scarred for life, and what I wouldn't have paid to have not gone through that. So
totally
that's what
agree.
we're trying to help people who have experienced that to never experience it again, and have people who've never experienced it go through their whole life without having to clean up a flood. That would be a nice thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Roy, for enlightening us about this world that you are in. And everybody, please check out the Basement Defender. I know I'm definitely going to check it out. It sounds like a product everybody needs. So thanks a lot for doing the podcast.
Thank you, Walt. My pleasure.
All right. And thank you all for listening. Bye-bye. Cool. Are you happy with that?